You're listening to the Fierce Fatty Podcast, episode 57, Path A or Path B. Choose your own adventure. I'm your host, Victoria Wellesby. Let's do it!
Perfect.
I'm Victoria Wellesby, TEDx speaker, best-selling author and fat activist. I have transformed my life from hating my body with desperately low self-esteem to being a courageous and confident, fierce fatty who loves every inch of this jelly. Society teaches us living in a fat body is bad, but what if we spent less time, money, and energy on the pursuit of thinness and instead focused on the things that actually matter, like if pineapple on pizza should be outlawed, or if the mullet was the greatest haircut of the 20th century. So, how do you stop negative beliefs about your fat body controlling your life? It's the Fierce Fatty Podcast. Let's begin. Bonjour, willkommen. Willkommen? That's German, I think, for welcome. I'm so international. Hello and welcome to episode 57. I'm so pleased to have you here. Hope you're doing all right. Hope you're surviving life and everything's good. I'm currently sweating my tits off, and so I was wearing a turtleneck. But I have changed into like a vest because it's so hot and it's November, so it's pretty cool. Lucky me. Do you remember a few episodes ago, like maybe 5 episodes ago, I said that I'd realised that every single morning I have a shower and get dressed before I go downstairs and start my day, and I was like, why do I do that? Because some people go downstairs with their pyjamas on and like hang around a bit, and then maybe don't have a shower, and then maybe get dressed, and that's cool. And I was like, why am I doing that? And I was exploring that idea of, am I doing it because I always need to feel presentable, and how I have been wanting to wear more sweating pants. Well, I got me a sweating suit so that I can sweat in comfort in my own home and outside in public whenever we're allowed outside. We're currently quarantined again. So yeah, I got myself a sweating suit, red, like it. And I've been wearing more like leggings and comfortable trousers and things like that. And you lot, what the heck? Why have you been keeping this a secret from me? Like, I've been going around wearing jeans every single day of my life with belts, and they kind of get a little bit uncomfortable, right? And no one has told me that there's these like other things that you can wear. Yes, you've told me, all right, I know they existed, but I just never considered wearing them for no reason. But yeah, so if you have not partaken in a sweating pant, a sweating trouser, give it a go, give it a whirl. It's great to feel comfortable. So in today's episode, I'm talking about Path A or Path B, choose your own adventure. Now, do you remember, or perhaps you're currently reading a choose your own adventure book? Now, I think I got my hands on a couple of those books when I was a kid. I never read them. Do you know what I used to do? Is I used to like read the first little bit, skip until it had like the end of the chapter where it said, go to page 152 if you choose this, and go to page 17 if you choose that. And I'd always be like, okay, let's look at 152. Oh, there's like blocks of text. Can't be bothered with that. Oh, let's look at 17. Oh, you die. And I'm like, done. Read the book. And then if it was like 152, I'd like skip all of the text and just go, but like, go to page 78 or go to page 212. And then I just skip and just basically seeing all the different ways in which you can die in this choose your own adventure story. So I've never read a book, actually, a choose your own adventure book, but I completed them, ? Fraudulently. And as well, do you remember that movie? I think it's from like the 90s or the noughties. I think it was from the noughties. Sliding Doors with Gwyneth Paltrow. Do you remember that movie? Basically, the plot, the premise is looking at the two different lives from the consequence of missing a tube, what do you call them in the States? Metro? No, underground? No, that's what we call them. Underground train in London. So one day she misses the tube to go home because she was fired. And in the other scenario, she gets on the tube. And the one that she gets on the tube, one of the others, she goes home and she finds her boyfriend is cheating on her. And the other one, she doesn't, and she doesn't find out her boyfriend is cheating until later. And anyway, you keep up with who's who because she cuts her hair short in one of the scenarios, and so you can work out which Gwyneth is scenario A and scenario B. And I've always just been so interested and like fascinated thinking about the different kind of one little decision, how that could change your life, you know? And choosing to go this way or that way, how that one little thing could potentially change your whole life. And you know, Black Mirror, I love Black Mirror, TV show on Netflix. They did an episode, it was probably my least favorite episode actually, and it was a choose your own adventure episode, and I went through every single like option to see which each option would happen, what would happen, because I was like, I want to know what happens with all my choices. And so life is kind of like our own choose your own adventure, but in real life, well, that's exactly what choose your own adventure is, right? But we know the final outcome. So we know the final outcome is that, I hate to break it to you, that we're gonna die. I know. I thought I was immortal as well. Turns out we're not. Sucks. Or does it? Do we want to live forever? Would it be like that film with, I think, Meryl Streep. Yeah, Meryl Streep and what's that ginger one? The truth becomes her. Lies become her. Devil becomes her. Something becomes her. Anyway, and they have like immortality juice and they drink it and then they just like, their bodies are falling apart because they're not designed to live forever. So, yeah, we know the outcome of our choose your own adventure is that one day we're going to die. What we don't know is when and what the content of our life will be between now and then. So I wanted to look back at my own like path A and path B, which is very similar to a lot of people's path A, and then path B is kind of like what if. In our lives in regards to learning to love your body and stop dieting or not. And so, you can always see kind of like pivotal times in your life and think, oh, well, that was kind of like a pivotal time. And if I didn't do that, then maybe that wouldn't have happened and that, da. And so my kind of pivotal A-B path decision happened in my late 20s. So in my late 20s, where I was in my brain was I had spent my life not liking my body, and now I was like, well, it's not about what you look like, ? I didn't really believe it, but it's about health. Healthy is the new skinny. And so I really want to focus on my health. That was kind of like me trying to be a more enlightened version of me being like, I just want to be thin and look like a model, but still I wanted to be thin and look like a model. So that's where I was. And I remember I took I think it was about 3 days off work to go to this health workshop. And so it was like 3 days of learning about how to be healthy. And the reason why I took it is because I believed that I didn't know how to eat. Which is what diet culture teaches us, right? Like, you don't know how to eat. Look what's happened to you because you've been eating on your own. You've become really fat and horrible. Do our diet plan and we'll teach you how to eat. It infantilizes you. And you ain't no baby. You know how to eat. I didn't know that at the time though. So I thought, going to this workshop, they're going to teach me how to eat, when to eat, what to do with my life to make myself healthy, aka thin, looking like a model. And I was in a really influential state. I was quite kind of, I know nothing. Teach me everything. Clearly, I have no control over my life because I tried everything to become thin, right? And in that life, in that time of my life, I was quite successful with my career. Everything in my life was pretty good. I'd say pretty good in regards to how good it could be when I was hating myself and dieting and all that type of stuff. And I just really thought, I just need to get rid of this fatness and I'll finally be as successful as I deserve to be, and finally I'll be recognized, and finally that last little thing, because I dealt with a lot of shit and trauma and all that type of stuff. I just need to get rid of this fatness. So, I was spending time and money learning, taking no time off work to learn how to be quote unquote healthy. And the content of this workshop could have pushed me one way or the other. So one way is pushing me into learning how to love my body, realizing that diets don't work. And the other way, path B, really going all in on this health and fitness stuff. And I was kind of like, this workshop was kind of, could push me either or. And I remember during the workshop, I asked the leader, we were having lunch, I asked the leader, how many nuts should I eat? And I was like, can I eat 3 nuts or should I eat 5 nuts? And she said, just eat what you want. She wasn't a diet fiend, which was so lucky. Eat like however many you like. And I was like, but like, is 5 too much? Is 10 too much? Is like 20 too much? I think she kind of gave me some sort of answer because I needed to know how many nuts I was allowed to eat, which is silly. And we had this, so that was a good thing. That was kind of a good thing. She must have given me some sort of answer, but I remember that sticking with me, of her saying, eat as many as you want, or eat what you want, sort of thing. I remember that sticking with me. And also I remember we had the lunch catered by this organic food company, and what they provided was salad. And it was a cold, rainy time of the year. The place we were in was this yoga studio, which it was concrete floors, like polished concrete. And it was very cold, like hard chairs. And when we were sitting, when we were like doing the workshop, we were sitting on the floor on thin yoga mats. And it was uncomfortable. And having salad when it's like a cold day and you just need, warming up, and, a nice bowl of soup or something hearty would have been really nice. And we were all there saying, oh yes, salads. Oh, great. Oh, this is lovely. I remember like with my tofu salad being, this is lovely. And I was so fucking hungry, and it could have been lovely, but I was so hungry, and salad is, unless it's a really hearty salad, is not enough food. And even though the leader said you can eat as many nuts as you like, I still wouldn't allow myself to eat more nuts, because I was looking around at these other people on the table. A couple of them were professional athletes. One of them was a gold medal Olympian, and I think the other one was an Olympian too, or some sort of professional athlete. Anyway, and so I'm looking around at these other people, and someone was like a professional chef, and they were just eating their salad, and they were content, or so I, thought. They were probably fucking starving too, and didn't want to be like, oh God, give me some food, because we were like, learning how to be healthy and all that type of stuff. So something inside me said, like, this doesn't feel good. Like, it didn't feel good. Cold and hard floor and cold food and hungry, and it just didn't, I was like, this just is not sitting right with me. I'm hungry. I'm hungry. So instead, what I did is after that workshop, sometime after, I don't know how long after, somehow I stumbled upon the book Health at Every Size by Dr. Lindo Bacon. And I stumbled upon Dances with Fat, Reagan Chastain's blog. And I started following fit, quote unquote, fit fat people. Because I couldn't follow just a normal fat person. I would say normal, like, and that, you know, any fat person. It had to be someone who was like health focused, because I couldn't, you know, cope with being interested in a fat person who's just like, I'm fat, whatever. And so I started kind of educating myself, and I realized that this is what I was looking for. Like, this is the answer. And focusing on my health in that way, because I was so much about health. But, you know, health, really, was I? I thought that I was so like focused about my health and making myself healthy. And I discovered that this was Health at Every Size, learning to love your body and stop dieting, was actually super health promoting, and what I was doing previously, not so much. And I finally realized that it wasn't my weight holding me back, but it was the way that I viewed my weight, how society viewed body weight. And my mindset totally shifted. And this thing that I thought was a problem was no longer a problem in the way that I previously viewed it. The problem was the way that society views fat bodies, not the fact that I had a fat body, have a fat body. And I realized that I had nothing to be ashamed of. Continued to educate myself. I became an intuitive eater. It was hard, but I did it. And my Achilles heel was gone. That big, dark, shameful thing, having a bigger body, was no longer shameful in my eyes. And I didn't have to, quote unquote, fix myself. So instead of thinking how to become thinner and how to become healthy by controlling food and forcing myself to exercise in ways that wasn't healthy, like I remember, I was such a knob. I remember one time posting on Facebook a picture of me, no, just a picture of the road. Me and my then partner, I said, let's go out running because I'm dedicated. A picture of the road that we ran on, covered in ice and snow. And I was like, I'm so dedicated to being healthy, I will run in the ice and snow when all these other lazy bastards are just inside having a good time. I'm so dedicated, I will risk breaking my neck in order to be healthy. And I remember posting that picture, being like, hashtag out for an evening run. And it was dark, and it was nighttime. Like hashtag out for an evening run, hashtag what's your excuse, something like that, something obnoxious. So I did stuff like that. And so instead of doing stuff like that, I did stuff that actually improved my life. So instead of going out running at nighttime in the ice and snow, I would do things like I got a better job. I then eventually started my own business. I ended friendships that weren't healthy for me, didn't serve me, and invested more in the friendships that did and were good. I made new healthy relationships. I stopped dating people who were not suitable for me as soon as they showed me their true colours. I was able to do really cool stuff. I made mistakes and I grew from those mistakes. And all because I wasn't spending so much time, money and effort in trying to become thin or thinner or healthy, whatever that means, you know. And now I believe that I'm a more compassionate and kind person, not only to others, but to myself, which is super important. And I don't think that I would be where I am now and be as compassionate towards myself if I didn't choose path A, the love your body and stop dieting path. I don't think I could be compassionate towards myself and to others, because if you're compassionate towards yourself, you can be compassionate to others, if I didn't choose that path. So what do I think could happen if I or others, because this, my story is, resonates with so many people. I bet so many people are like, yeah. Obviously not the specifics of, I went to a health workshop for 3 days and asked the teacher about nuts. But, the general type of things that you were doing. And the path B, I think, a lot of it is going to be resonating with people because maybe where you see things going or what you think your life could be, depending on which path you decide to take or you have decided to take. Okay, so what would path B look like? So at that time in my life, so imagine if I went to that workshop, and from that workshop, I had taken something away from it saying, okay, I must eat only 3 nuts or whatever. And I must become thin, versus kind of questioning how this makes me feel. I remember at that time, I was in recruitment and I was interviewing with different companies. So around that time, and being a recruiter and knowing lots of people so when you're a recruiter, you know lots of people in the city who have kind of professional type jobs. You know a lot of the other recruiters, even if they're your like your rivals or whatever. And someone who worked for a rival agency who then worked for a company, I became friends with him. And then he got a new job at Lululemon. So Lululemon, working in the corporate head office in Vancouver. So Lululemon, don't know if you know about Lululemon. So Lululemon is a Canadian yoga wear brand. And the former CEO, or was he? He's like the founder. He was the founder and CEO, Chip Wilson, is a notorious fatphobe and has made, you can read like articles about, if you just Google Lululemon and plus size or Lululemon and Chip Wilson, you'll get articles about the shit that he said. Like, basically, we don't want to make clothes that fit fat people because they'll look bad in our clothes, and we don't want fat people to represent our brand. And he's just a bit. He said some other things too. So anyway. So I don't know, I can't remember if at that time he was still there or not, but that's kind of, even still now, Lululemon still don't make clothes for fat people, and it's still kind of very not fat friendly. And when they try to do things which are inclusive, I remember one time in Vancouver they did like a feminism panel. And the panel was made up 100% of white men and women, all straight size, like literally. And I think they had a token person of colour, and everyone was like, this is peak white feminism. Anyway, so hope I don't get sued for the shit I'm saying. Allegedly, okay, allegedly, all of that stuff. So I went to visit him at the headquarter offices, and he's a good guy, like down to earth guy and stuff. And so I was like, I don't know, but I went to visit him. He gave me a tour, and there was lots of Lululemon type people. And so Lululemon type people would be, beautiful thin people, very organic, very celery, that type of thing. No fatties there. And immediately I felt like I probably don't fit there, but this guy's working there, he's super cool, he's not like that. But I felt like I definitely don't fit in here. And I know, so another one of my friends worked there in head office, and she would tell me about their staff discount day where they'd get like the stuff, items super cheap. And Lululemon stuff is expensive, right? So maybe a pair of leggings is $100. I don't know. Obviously, I don't buy their stuff. But I remember thinking, well, when they have staff discount day, I won't be able to buy anything. Maybe some socks or a hat or something. I don't even know if they make socks and a hat. Because they're notoriously fat phobic and they have like, go to size large, which is probably a size 10 or something. I don't know. So what if I'd come from that workshop, I'd gone to Lululemon to see about a job or whatever. And what if instead of saying and thinking or understanding that it didn't feel good to be there, what if instead I internalized that stuff and said, working for a company like this would be really good for me because it will help me become more fit and healthy. To be surrounded by all of these thin people, it's going to rub off on me, and before you know it, I'm going to be a world-class Olympian or something, right? What if? And that is very realistic, that, not the Olympian thing, but very, very realistic that I would see it like that because I worked previously for an organic food company. And what do you think went through my head when I took that job? I'll get so healthy with all the organic food that I'm eating. And actually, while I worked there, I sat behind one of the buyers. The buyers is the person who picks what food is going to be in store or whatever. And I remember him talking to like the other buyers and being like, oh, isn't it so interesting how organic has a load of bullshit, and how even the organic farmers, they think it's bullshit, but they do it because they make more money from it. So, and I was like, oh, before I didn't really know about organic. I presumed, it's probably better. But, the people who were working there who know about this stuff was like, nah, it's bullshit, don't worry about it. And so, I came away from that. Still, a lot of disordered food shit that I learned, but not thinking, organic food is better or organic milk is better. I literally one time, so I started buying this really expensive organic milk, and my boyfriend at the time, he was a scientist, and he was like, why are you buying all this expensive organic milk? Like I'd buy them in these really fancy like glass containers. And I was like, well, it just tastes better. And he's like, does it? And I was like, yeah. As soon as I taste that organic milk, I'm like, I know it's organic. And so he did a blind taste test for me. And so I was like, swear straight up and down, I know that taste of that organic milk because it's so beautiful. And so then I did the taste test. I tasted the organic milk and I was like, that is the organic milk. It's beautiful. It's lovely. And he was like, no, this is the milk from the cheap superstore. And I was like, oh, oh shit. But anyway, if you buy organic milk, whatever, if you like it, go for it, whatever. No big deal. But, luckily some things there happened that stopped me going down this path of, something else, plan B, option B, path B. So what if I pursued a job at Lululemon? Or maybe I didn't, and maybe I just decided that I need to be thin enough to work at places like this. Because I knew I kind of didn't fit in. I didn't own any Lululemon clothes, and I went to yoga because I like a bit of Kundalini yoga. I was very active and had two bikes, a road bike, and I was very active. But still, I didn't feel like I fit in there because I had a bigger body. So what if I could have pursued a job there, or maybe I just took from it, I need to fit in, I need to become thin enough to be worthy. And maybe I could have really got into healthy living and organic and working out 365 days a year. And I wouldn't have read Hayes. Like at that point, if someone had said, hey, read this book, Health at Every Size, I wouldn't probably be in the mindset or be curious or open to reading something like Health at Every Size. I wouldn't be inclined to because it wouldn't align with my goals of becoming thinner and therefore worthy and therefore attractive and sexy and all that type of stuff. Maybe I would have made more new friends, got rid of the old ones, maybe the old ones who were good for me. And maybe the new friends would be super health focused. Because I started doing that actually at that time with the health workshop because the person who ran it was a friend. And I leaned towards being friends with her because she was a health coach. And so I can imagine. And then I made friends in that workshop. And I can imagine leaning into those friendships and from, more friendships from people that they knew, that type of thing. And so being surrounded by people who are very focused on health and weight and all that type of stuff. And I would probably watch more health documentaries on Netflix. And those health documentaries on Netflix are like, don't eat potatoes because they're going to ruin the world. I'm talking about the health documentaries which are not helpful. The ones that are, scaremongering people into not eating food. And that's problematic in lots of different ways. So I would be watching more of these health documentaries on Netflix, and then that would influence my behavior a lot. And maybe I would cut out more food groups. Maybe then my disordered relationship with food could turn into a full-blown eating disorder. But I wouldn't see it because I still wouldn't be thin. Because as we know, it's very hard to become thin. So no matter what I would try, I couldn't get thin. Maybe I could lose weight a little bit temporarily. And I would blame myself when then I put that weight back on. Everyone I know is thin, right? All my friends, all these health people, they're all thin. And I wouldn't be able to see that maybe they're just naturally thin, or perhaps they have an eating disorder or something else is going on behind the scenes. And this would be my whole life. I'd be really deep in focusing on health and weight. Maybe I'd do something like start a business around this. Maybe I wouldn't have the energy to start a business around this because I'd be so fucking tired and hungry that I wouldn't have the capacity to do something like that. And if I did start a business around, health and becoming thin, I would be all in with the disordered relationship with food and my body. And I'd be teaching it to others. And it would be hard to come back from that. And it'd be hard to say, do you know what? I was wrong. And I would feel ashamed because even though I'd be teaching about health, a lot of times I'd be sneaking food and eating things that I quote unquote shouldn't, because I would be so desperately hungry for food and for comfort and for all the normal things that human beings need. And I'd probably see my body as this project, this thing that needs to improve, and it would never be good enough. I would see it as bad. And if I had a partner, I'd probably choose someone who was into health and fitness. And they would add to my way of thinking. They would objectify me as they objectify themselves. And I wouldn't be able to keep up the dieting and restriction. There would be times where I'd break and binge and put weight on. And I would believe that I was addicted to food. And maybe I'd go to Overeaters Anonymous meetings. I would believe that I was so deeply flawed and my body was so wrong. And I would continue on this cycle of restrict and binge, just like everyone does on diets. But I would never say I'm on a diet. I would say things like, I'm just being careful with what I eat. I just want to be healthy. And life would continue with me being distracted by this meaningless thing, what my body looks like. And believing that I had good health because I ate organic food. but my mental health would be awful. My self-esteem would be awful. Dieting has terrible consequences on our physical health. So I probably wouldn't actually be healthy. And so does hating your body. Having shame around your body has terrible consequences on our mental and physical health. Maybe I would do things to prove that I am worthy, even though I am still fat. Like being a people pleaser, or not standing up for myself, or trying to prove that I'm attractive despite my body. So maybe I would spend lots of money altering my appearance, or buying new clothes, but nothing would ever deep down make me feel good. All this stuff would kind of be like a temporary salve. And this continues through life. Everything is tainted by the relationship I have with my food and with food and my body, it being disordered. And if I have children, I worry what that means for my body. And I worry that my partner, who is health and fitness focused, what they think of my body if I have children. And if I get married, being obsessed with being as thin as possible on my wedding day, but still looking at the pictures from my wedding day and thinking I didn't look good enough. I still looked fat. And as I raise my kids, I teach them how to be healthy, or so I think. But really what I'm teaching them is how to be disordered around food and not trust their bodies and not like their bodies. I have no idea what I'm teaching them. I want them to be healthy. When I say I want them to be healthy, I want them to be thin. After all, I don't want them to be fat like me and have a bad life because of their fat body. I want them to be thin. And even as I age, feelings about myself don't change. Nothing I do makes me feel like I'm good enough. And now I don't have youth. I don't have my youth, so I have to really double down on my weight and really work to get thin, because I don't have that youth advantage. Because obviously I think that being young and youth is, beauty, because I don't understand about patriarchal beauty ideals. At my grandchildren's birthdays, I would say, ooh, only a tiny piece of cake, because I'm worried that I will ruin my diet. Maybe I go to weekly diet meetings with my friends and feel ashamed when I don't lose weight. When I go on holiday with my family or go out with my friends, I don't want to be in pictures, because seeing myself look, quote unquote, so big really makes me sad. And I'm very old now and I'm dying. As I look back on my life, I can finally see all the time, money and energy that I wasted trying to become smaller. And I realize people love me no matter what my size is. And that my body has taken me through life even though I did everything to make it disappear. But I realize I can't get back that time. And as I see my children and grandchildren go on diets and stare at themselves in the mirror while looking disappointed, I'm sad to know my legacy will continue for years to come. That legacy of body hate, disordered relationship with food. And that is a scenario for Path B. A scenario for Path B. Of what could happen to you or I if we decide to double down on these efforts to become thin. Or if we say, you know what, this isn't making me feel good. Let's explore something else. Let's look at this path A. And of course, there's going to be variations on that path. Like maybe, say if I my disordered eating in path B, my disordered eating turned into a full eating disorder. Maybe that could have killed me. Maybe I could have died from my eating disorder and never made it to be that old lady who finally had that realization. Or maybe in my 50s, I finally discovered health at every size and body positivity and fat positivity, and then make a change. Who knows? A lot of people, they feel like they kick themselves because why didn't I do this earlier? Why didn't I realize earlier? And I always think, you know what? Unless you can't blame yourself. If someone, like what I'm doing right now, shows you the possibilities of path A, path B, then you can make an informed choice. But the thing is, at that very moment, we don't know, do we? I didn't know that going on this this wellness health retreat thing could be the catalyst for me making positive changes in my life. I didn't know that by saying, do you know what, eating a salad when it's really cold and I'm hungry doesn't feel good, instead of saying it doesn't feel good and that's about me. In that moment, I didn't know that I was making potentially a big decision for myself. But I had experiences that made me curious, working at that organic food company and it not being exactly how I thought it would be. Maybe if I had worked at that organic food company, I could have come out as, raging, don't eat this, don't eat that type of thing. And it wouldn't necessarily have been a choice. But, so that's why I'm doing this kind of comparison, so that we can look and think, okay, so this is what could happen if I continue trying to make my body small. And continue trying to control my weight with food, and continue exercising in ways that don't make me feel good. And instead, I'm going to start to explore moving my body in ways that I like, or taking time off from moving my body, and allowing myself the foods that I want to eat, and allowing my fat body to just be fat. What could happen then? And the good thing is, say if you know the two different paths, say if you go down path A, the loving your body path, and you're like, do you know what? I don't like this is not for me. I just love dieting and I love hating myself. Probably it's not going to happen, but if that is your thing, then you can always just go back on path B, right? Whereas I see it as like path B is just a time suck. It's like a waste. It's like it's going in the wrong direction when you can have beautiful, happy stuff on path A. It's still going to be hard. Like, it's not fairy tales and rainbows and all that type of stuff. It's still going to be hard, but it's different, right? It's hard, but also at the end of the day, you're going to be like, do you know what? My body's all right. I don't even think about my body. I don't think about food. Something that really inspired this episode is that I grew up with, so my mum has a best friend, and she lived like 10 doors down from my childhood home, and she was like a second mum to me. And she was fat. She is fat. She always has been fat. That's just who she is. She's fat. And as a young kid, I was just like, oh, she's fat. It's, whatever. It's fun to hug her, I never thought it was a problem. But she was always on diets. She never got thin for any amount of time. Temporarily she'd lose a little bit of weight and then put it back on. And my mum spoke to her last week, and when she was on the phone to her, my mum's friend said, that she was going to go to her diet club that day. And I was really surprised because we moved away from my family home. I moved away when I was 17, and so I haven't really seen her. I've seen her a couple of times, like my mum's wedding, and when my dad died, she came to the funeral, but I hadn't really been a part of her life for this amount of time. And I presumed that she would have just kind of come to the realization that she's just a fat person. And when I heard that she's going to this diet club and she's in her mid-60s, I just thought, no, oh no, oh, you're perfect. You don't need to do that. This is what I was thinking. I just wanted to, and I think I've sent her my book before. Maybe I don't know, but anyway, it's not my it's not my place to do that. But maybe my mum sent her my book. So thinking about her still pursuing weight loss, and me kind of having the belief of, oh, we'll grow out of this stuff, But I knew already. I guess I didn't connect it with people in my life, but I knew already that why would we? Why would we all of a sudden, when we get older, become incredibly wise and incredibly knowledgeable and able to look at all the bullshit that we've been fed all of our lives? Why is it that an age, like we hit a number, then all of a sudden we are like, oh, like the knowledge of the earth has been downloaded into my brain, and now I realize that dieting is a load of bullshit and that my body is absolutely fine. Why would that happen unless you decide to make a change and you educate yourself and all that type of stuff, right? And we know this. We see this with, older people in our lives who are still talking about, oh, I mustn't, and all this diet bullshit. And then we kind of think in our brains, oh, but when I get older, it's going to be different. But why? Why would it be different? We do what we do. We continue to do what we do throughout our lives, right? Why would we suddenly change? We wouldn't, unless we decide, okay, I'm going to make a change. I'm going to work at this. We will always do what we've always done, unless we decide to make a change. So unless you decide to make a change, then nothing's going to change. Nothing's going to change. But it's really cool because you can choose your own adventure path. And it is an adventure. See what happens. So path A and path B are both scary and difficult. And I'm so thankful. I'm so thankful that there was something inside me that helped me pick path A. And I honestly shudder to think that where I would be right now if I had gone on path B. Maybe I'd be exactly where I am today. Maybe if I'd gone on path B and I went into like hardcore dieting, something would change and I'd be like, do you know what? This is bullshit. And I'd be even more fiery about it because then I wasted even more time about it and I would be the same where I am today. Or maybe not, maybe I'd be thinner, but at what cost? And at what cost to my mental and physical health? Or maybe actually, you know what? I probably wouldn't be thinner if I did go on path B, because what we know about dieting is it makes us gain weight. So I would probably be fatter. Not that being fatter is worse, but, I'm just trying to think of these scenarios. So maybe I'd be fatter, but deep in disordered eating and not know why I couldn't control my weight. I'd also probably be with some creepy guy that I didn't feel worthy of, and maybe I'd pressure him to get married to me to prove that I'm worthy of being a bride. Yeah, because we probably never know about the other versions of ourselves in parallel universes. But it's kind of cool to think about, right? Another version of Victoria I think about is the version of Victoria that never left my hometown, that never left my abusive partner. And I think about her and, getting married to him and having kids with him and how very sad I would be. And I'm so pleased to be not living that reality right now. Yeah, so, thinking about this stuff just makes me feel thankful. So what's your path? What path are you going to take? Path A or path B? Or maybe there's a path C or D or E, F, G, and on. And your path A might be similar to mine. Your path B, my scenario that I read out, that might be similar. You're probably not a grandparent with grandkids on your deathbed right now. thinking, oh, the last thing I'm going to do in my life is listen to this podcast called Fierce Fatty and think about how much time in my life I've wasted. You're probably not going to do that on your deathbed. So what path do you think is best for you? I don't know. Everyone's different, right? Maybe path B is better for you. I don't know. If we ask someone like Gillian Michaels from The Biggest Loser, that evil person, she'd probably say path B, right? I'm not saying you have to be evil to go on path B, but I'm saying, sometimes path B might be better for people. Sometimes path A is better for people. And path A is scary, right? Because you're going to have to stand up to the world, basically, at some point and be like, listen, I'm fat. Fucking deal with it. That's hard and scary and dangerous. Yeah. So, all right. Well, thank you for hanging out with me on this episode. Choose your own adventure. I hope your adventure of your life is fun, adventuresome. And thank you for hanging out with me today. I will see you later, crocodile. Stay fierce, fatty. Goodbye. Thanks for listening to the episode. And if you feel ready to get serious about this work and want to know when the doors open to Fierce Fatty Academy, which is my signature program where I teach all about how to overcome your fat phobic beliefs and learn to love your fat body, then go to fiercefatty.com/waitlist. Again, that is fiercefatty.com/waitlist to get your name on the waitlist for when Fierce Fatty Academy, my signature program, opens.